Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So earlier today, I saw this video with Kamala Harris. She was doing an interview on the Griot. I will post a link to that particular interview. Also, there's more commentary. There's an extended version of the interview. I'll post that as well. That talks about some other things dealing with the black agenda. But in this particular interview, Kamala Harris was asked whether or not she supports reparations. She was asked that directly. And instead of directly answering that question, yes or no, this woman proceeded to basically tap dance around the issue. She went into a long little talk about the history of slavery, Jim Crow, and even modern discrimination. And she talked about how she supports the LIFT Act, and that's an act that would give a tax credit to families earning less than $100,000. So instead of directly addressing whether or not she supports reparations, she talked about how she supports a program, this LIFT Act that will lift up families. She talked about like how African Americans would benefit from such a program. We would directly benefit because we're disproportionately suffering from certain economic issues and problems. And I was just really disappointed with her response, but I wasn't surprised. And then also, she went on to say this during this interview. She said, I'm not going to say that I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people. And we know that reparations will be targeted towards African Americans. So this woman is basically saying that she's not going to support reparations. And, for her to try to compare this LIFT Act to reparations, that's literally ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Giving somebody a small little tax credit is not anywhere near being equivalent to providing reparations for the enslavement of African people in this country. Our ancestors were enslaved for hundreds of years in this country, forced to work without compensation, deprived of opportunity, subjected to the most oppressive system in human history. And this woman doesn't think we're entitled to any kind of reparations for that, to repair the damage that was done to us as a people. And I think that that's despicable, especially coming from a woman that expects the black vote, a woman that tries to allegedly, pander to black people. But when it comes to this issue of reparations, all of a sudden she wants to tap dance around the issue. She has no problem, making her announcement to launch this campaign on Martin Luther King Day, pandering to the black community. But when it comes to the real issues of substance, here she is basically saying she doesn't support reparations. She had no problem going to Howard University to do some press conference, highlighting her ties to the black community to garner the black support and black votes. But when it comes to an issue that's of vital importance to us as a people, she wants to dance around it and talk about how she's not going to support something that solely benefits African Americans. And I think that that's ridiculous, man. Nobody tells women, well, I can't support this legislation because it only benefits women. Nobody tells these other groups of people, like, for instance, the LGBT community, I can't support this legislation because it's only going to benefit gay people. Nobody says that to them. Nobody says, well, I can't support this legislation that's going to give more money to Israel because that only benefits Israelis and Jews. Nobody says that. But when it comes to the African in America who was enslaved for hundreds of years, all of a sudden, she's saying that she can't do something that's specifically for African Americans. Slavery targeted black people. Slavery, directly impacted black people. So in order to address that wrong, you need a specific program that targets the affected people. And we are the ones who've been impacted by slavery. Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote a brilliant article called The Case for Slavery. The Case for Reparations, where he talks about, the real life impact that slavery and Jim Crow has had on this current day generation. We need reparations. And you cannot expect to get unconditional black support if you don't embrace reparations. I don't care what color you are. You should put reparations at the top of your agenda. And I understand, like, these politicians playing the game. They want to get universal support. They don't want to alienate certain people and stuff like that. So they can't, they don't want to say that they support reparations because they fear that it will cause like blowback in other communities that they're trying to win over the vote for. And I think that that's unfortunate, man. Why is it that we always get put at the bottom of these politicians' list of priorities, man? Now, she did talk about like her black agenda in the other segment that I mentioned earlier. She talked about like dealing with infant mortality. She talked about HBCUs, and those are great things, and I support those things. And I don't have any, obviously, I don't have any problem with legislation that disproportionately benefits black people but benefits others. I don't have any problem with that. But this issue of reparations is a separate question. I don't have any problem with the LIFT Act, but let's not pretend that that's going to be some kind of substitute for real reparations. Our people were enslaved for hundreds of years. Every single industry in this country profited off of the enslavement of African people, and they are in debt to the descendants of those enslaved people. They are in debt to us, whether we're talking about insurance companies, which insures slaves, whether we're talking about the federal government itself, which used slaves to build federal buildings and use slaves for other purposes, whether we're talking about financial institutions like banks that gave loans to these slave owners that used slave labor. These people are in debt to us, whether we're talking about universities that use slave labor and sold slaves to maintain their institutions. These people are in debt to us, and we have to be the ones to collect it. And any politician coming before us seeking our vote, we need to demand that they support reparations, period. Period. That's what we have to do. You have Jews who have received some form of reparations. You have other groups of people, Japanese who were in internment camps and all that kind of stuff. You have Native people who have received some form of reparations, various groups. It's the black man and woman's turn for reparations. And if you claim to be black, you claim to identify with black people, you have to support and embrace reparations, man. The days are gone where we just accept empty symbolism, where we just want to have a black face in a high place. It's about what are your policies. Now, I'm not going to say that this woman doesn't have other good policies or whatever, but this question of reparations is a very real question that needs to be addressed and answered directly. I listened to that interview. It's a very short interview. It's like 2 minutes or whatever, that little segment that I'm talking about. And this woman could not give a yes or no answer to this question of reparations. And that's a shame, man. And that's part of the reason why I don't have like a lot of respect for her, because she comes across as very phony and disingenuous. She should have just said yes or no to that question instead of dancing around it and pretending like some LIFT Act is some kind of equivalency to reparations when it's not. Giving somebody some small little tax credit in the bigger scheme of things is nothing compared to reparations, man. And the reparations shouldn't just go back to slavery. All we have to do is look at Jim Crow and how Jim Crow cut us out of economic opportunity, as documented in Ta-Nehisi Coates' brilliant article, The Case for Reparations. He talks about redlining and how it impacted our ability to gain wealth, to buy homes and stuff like that. That's part of the reason why you have this massive wealth disparity between black people and white Americans. That's part of the reason. And you can't address that disparity without really tackling this question of reparations. And I think that at bare minimum, these politicians that come before us, they have to embrace H.R. 40. And that's a bill that John Conyers put before Congress many years Like year after year, he brings it before Congress and it goes nowhere. And that's simply calling for a study of the question of reparations. A simple study of the question. If you can't support a study of the question of reparations, then you don't deserve our vote, period. So, yeah, I just wanted to express my opinions on this particular issue. Tell me what y'all think about it, man. You know, again, I'll post a link in the description box so that you can watch the interview for yourself and judge it for yourself. I'm really interested in hearing what you all have to say about it. So with that, I'm going to say peace and blessings to each and every one of you. I may do a couple of other live streams once I get off from work, so you all look out for those. Unfortunately, I don't have time to read your comments, but hopefully I'll be able to watch the playback and read your comments later, and I may discuss your comments in a future live stream. So again, I want to thank you all for your support. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content. Peace.